I wanted to create a podcast that brought together some of my most favorite people in the world. And these were people that I admired because of their business sense, or because of how they lived their lives, or just because of the stories that they told. And these were people that I had great relationships with, either personally or through business, and people who really inspired me. And I thought to myself that if these people really inspired me, that I had to share them with an audience. And so I bring to you the Terré Holmes Show, an audio podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Terré Holmes here of Lily and Eve. We're a lifestyle brand for women with style and grace. And welcome to the Terré Holmes Show, sponsored by Lily and Eve. Listen, I am so excited because I have been trying to have this conversation with this woman here for a very long time. If Oprah has a Gail, she's like my Gail. This is Kellie. Kellie's like my Gail.
Yeah.
Kellie is the woman who I go to for all things cultural, pop culture, all things wellness, natural healing. When I want to cry, when I want to laugh, when I want to, she's just amazing. So
when you want to argue.
When I want to argue. See how she made me laugh? So we have been trying to have this conversation. Kellie is one of my besties in the world. And we've been friends for how long, Kellie?
18, 20 years now.
Yeah. 18.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't want to date us.
Okay, don't date us. Well,
yeah.
And we've been friends for 18 years, like since we were born. So, you get that? She didn't get it. We've been friends since we were born. So for 18 years, we've been friends.
Well, yeah. Well, we found out our families knew each other and we didn't realize it.
Yes. So we've been friends for a very long time.
They used to have fights on the street and stuff, all that.
Well, that was my
stuff.
family. That was my family. The Holmes.
My family knew about it. So we found out my family knew about it. So I guess they must have been in the situation too.
Well, they may have been. So this episode here is all about love. We're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
And love runs the gamut, right? Because this is the month of February, which is a month about love. And there is no better love than self-love, in addition to romantic love, in addition to the love of friends and friendship. So without any further delay, Kellie and I are just going to chat it up because we have the most amazing conversations by ourselves. And we're like, what if people could hear us having these conversations?
What if they could be a fly on the wall?
Right. What would happen if they were a fly on the wall? So how do you feel about, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but my shirt says.
No, I can't. Okay. I'm single, so what? Oh, I love it.
So my question for you is, how do you feel about, because I'm assuming you're single.
Me?
Like me. Yeah, like me.
Or are you asking someone else? Oh, okay.
No, you.
I'm trying to figure it. Okay. So you're assuming, wait a minute. If we're besties, why are you assuming that I'm single?
You just know. Because
you should know this already.
No, because you keep secrets. So I'm assuming you're single. So anyway, Kellie.
You know my deepest, darkest secrets. And really?
Okay, so.
Okay. In all fairness, everybody, I do sometimes keep a secret, but then she always finds out. So I can't.
All right. So I
would
say, Kellie's single, I'm single. So my question to you is, how do you feel about being single on Valentine's Day? Like, is that a big thing for you?
Well, as you know, it really isn't. You know that, okay, come on now. Growing up, it was a big deal. Everybody thought if you were single, like, what's wrong with you, Ma? What's up? Why are you single? Oh, what? You look, something must be wrong with you. Right. Are you gay? Right. Are you this? Are you that? Yeah. And I think probably, which, what we talk about is that it starts with yourself. Yes. I mean, we all go through it. through, as you're younger and you think that you're supposed to live a certain type of way or whatever. But we know as we've come to grow and to mature that really that's not what it is. It's
Yeah.
who you are and how you feel about yourself.
ab-
And so love, I think, if you're expressing it and you're giving it to so many people, and how we're constantly laughing even through the pain, we somehow can find something to laugh about. And we
yeah.
both have been through quite a bit, both
Oh
being
Lord.
divorced and just losing people and loss. So but so yeah,
But yeah.
I
So
think
so I agree with you, right? So like I remember when Valentine's Day used to come up, I used to cringe like at the thought of Valentine's Day coming up. However, the worst holidays for me of being single was New Year's Eve. I'm like, damn, you had all year to find somebody and you still single.
and I had a couple of New Year's Eves where I got like dumped, like people didn't call me. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to be doing something.
Wait a minute, you had a date and it like you got dumped. It didn't
Like
go.
it happened like a couple of times, I think.
Oh shoot! So I'm telling you, New Year's Eve is worse than Valentine's Day for me. So that's why people just get drunk on New Year's Eve and just call it a day. Like I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep early, right? And so by the time Valentine's Day rolls around, I'm back in the swing of things. I'm like, shit. So what? I'm single.
Well, we know that because like I learned from you. Like the thing is this, okay, so like we talk about this all the time because I'm a late bloomer. You're well, you're younger than me, but technically you're older than me.
Yes.
So yeah, so I mean, you like that's, and we talk about this all the time. Like when I grow up, I want to be just like you because like if I could just get on the dating site and if I could just be a normal person and if I could just get on the site and use the site.
I know.
How many years have you been trying to get me to get on the site? I can't get on the site.
I've been on the site for 20 years, so I've been trying to get you on for at least 18 of those years.
Yes, that's true. This is real stuff. Like something
this
is wrong.
Real stuff, right? Okay, so is something wrong with me because I've been on for 18 years, or is something wrong with you because you won't get on and you just stay single? But in full transparency, I've been on and off. I have had relationships, right? But yes. I've been on and off. I've been on dating apps since they had AOL dating.
Okay, so I think that
that was before I met you. I was on AOL dating before I met you. So that's just like, so I've been on and off dating apps for 20 years. And so it's funny. So today someone said to me, an ex-boyfriend who's now married, I shall not reveal his name. He said to me, he was like, Terré, could you just go ahead and choose somebody, please?
Wait a minute. Well, wait. If he's telling you to go ahead and choose somebody, and then you're turning around and telling me to go ahead and just get on the dating site and choose somebody. So what's the problem?
I'm telling you. So I told him, I said, well, I have this guy and we're doing something. And he was like, what does that mean? So I'm wondering, like, maybe, I don't know. Some of us just become serial daters. I don't know. So, okay.
Well, I've been looking at a lot of serial daters, but I, hey, it's no judgment over here, as you know, because I have issues. So,
all right. So no judgment.
Yeah. Okay. No judgment. No judgment zone. No judgment zone. I think the moral of it is, though, which I think both of us, all jokes aside, when we do get serious about stuff, I think we realize at the end of the day, the core is you, like, and how you feel about yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Are you the H word? You know the H word?
Well, normally I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that could be a lot of H words. Are you happy?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the one we talked about earlier today. Okay.
Just literally. Okay.
Anyway, oh my God.
Right.
Okay. We've both been married and divorced, right? So would you rather being with someone? Okay, here's my question. So what's worse? Is it worse to be with somebody and feel lonely, or is it worse to be by yourself and feel maybe alone? Which one is worse?
360 degrees or 150%, it's better to be by yourself than to be with someone and feel lonely.
So, I completely 100% agree with you. And it's so funny. Like, I remember when I first met you, you were like newly divorced, right? And you used to say things to me, and I would be like, okay, like, why is she saying this? And why is she saying that? And, you used to say, like, I love being married, but I don't have to be married again. And I would be like, why would she say that? Like, I want to be married so bad.
Right, right.
And now that I am divorced and I hear women wanting to be married so bad, I finally get what you were saying when I met you almost 20 years ago. Like, I finally get it.
Well, the interesting thing about that, though, if I don't know if you remember too, and is that you used to think, and this is something I think that happens quite a bit. You used to think that I really wasn't serious about that. Like there's
Yes.
no way that I could even feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's what I see as society. Like people sometimes they think that just because you're not in a relationship or you have been married and or you don't want to get married or you don't follow say the tradition or quote
Yeah.
unquote the norm of what everybody else is doing, sometimes people think that oh you can't be telling the truth or oh you
Yeah.
can't be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you told me that you finally got it, I was like, oh my goodness, I was so happy. Because I couldn't believe you were like, oh no, you just don't feel that way. And you were trying to, being the psychiatrist that you are at times, you were trying to, I guess, diagnose whatever issue I may have had. That's
so
true.
that's
true.
That's true because I was like in my late 20s when I met you, and you, well, we won't say stuff, but and so I just didn't
Well, I was
get
in
it.
my 30s. It
Yes,
wasn't that much
you
older.
were in your early 30s, and so I didn't get it. I was like, I was judging. I was because I hadn't met many of my friends were married. They had, they were newly married. So I didn't have any friends who were divorced. So I just didn't get it at the time. And
Yeah.
it took me going through something and sometimes being in a relationship, and not just my marriage, but I had another relationship that I was in where I was with the person and felt alone with the person. And I remember last year, I was driving down the street. I was visiting. I was at home in Cleveland visiting, and I'm driving down the street. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's like June, and my windows are rolled down, and my music is cranking, and I'm just like in my happy space, and I'm dancing and singing in the car. And I had this moment that was like, if you were still married, would you be this happy? And it wasn't. Yeah. And I had that thought of, and I always say this, and I really do mean this. My ex-husband set me free, and that was a blessing. And I call that a beautiful blessing. It was a beautiful divorce, was a beautiful blessing for me, because I would have stayed even in my unhappiness. I would have stayed because I was committed to the commitment, right? I was committed to the commitment. But I realized in now being by myself and having those moments of just pure joy and happiness, I would rather be so happy by myself than to be with someone else and not feel this type of happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
That's
It's
that self,
hmm?
that's that self-love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I don't know if, I think it's wonderful if a person that's younger, if they can find that,
Yeah.
but I certainly think that it's a journey, and sometimes you don't get it until you get married or you follow what the norm is, because you have this grandiose idea of what you think, reality is supposed to be, right?
Right.
Like growing up, okay, so you have play with the dolls, and then you go from that, oh, I want a boyfriend, and then the in la la land, and then you get the boyfriend, and then you think you're supposed to get married.
Yeah.
And some people get married younger than others, but then but this is interesting too, because you got married a little bit later in life. I
I
got
did.
married a little younger. However, I don't know if you go through it until you actually get married, because you never, if I talk to younger people, and you might agree with this, and you also talk to older people, unless you first experience it, you still are thinking, you still are looking for it,
Yep.
right?
For me, it was a validation.
Mm,
And I didn't realize for me, I didn't realize I wanted marriage to validate me. I wanted marriage to say, I'm lovable. Someone loved me enough to ask me to marry them.
mm, mm.
And so once it happened and after it was over, I learned to validate myself. I learned that I didn't need that for validation, that I was still amazing by myself, right? And that I was always amazing. I had always been that, but that I was looking for something outside of myself and I think that so many women feel that way, like this is going to make me happy. And marriage doesn't make you happy. Someone read, oh my God, I wish I had it. Someone sent me something yesterday. They talked about, it was a quote, they read it to me, and it said that marriage is an empty box. It has nothing in it.
Mm.
You bring everything to it. You bring love to it. You bring romance to it. You bring happiness to it. But it in and of itself is nothing but an empty box. But so many people think that marriage is love. Marriage is happiness. Marriage is all of these things.
Yeah.
But marriage in and of itself is nothing. You create your marriage. You create that life for yourself, you two together. And so I think that I had that, that feeling that like, oh, I'm going to get married and then it's going to be all of this and all of that. And it just wasn't. So when I talk to women my age, older, who've never been married or younger, and I say like, I try not to sound cynical, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, listen, be happy by yourself, because that's what you bring to marriage. You bring that to marriage. And if you're not happy by yourself, what are you bringing to that marriage?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, well, I think part of it, so like, okay, so, well, I have a question for you. Like, at what point though what do we have to learn? Because the reason why I asked that question is because our society, we're taught this. Like, for example, most of us were, and well, this happened specifically. It was my sister-in-law, 26. And I've heard this before. At 26, they were saying, "Oh, you got to get married. You got to find a husband." I
Yeah,
mean, but that's in a lot of cultures too. I mean, if you think about it,
it
a
is.
lot of people are like, "Oh, you're not married by 26, 27. Oh, what's going on with you?"
So it's in a lot of cultures. It's not in the African American culture anymore. It used to be, right? But it's in religion as well. So if you are heavily involved in Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And you are
Yeah.
a very devout Christian as an African American, then they do still push you. What's wrong with you? Why are you not married? And they push you to go and find a mate. And I just think that for me, after I turned 41 and after, I never had children, and after that period of my life had ended, I no longer felt pressure. Like I no longer felt pressure to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is being in a relationship for the purpose of having a family and producing, right? Which brings me to another point that you made earlier about how we fall into these societal norms. And one of those societal norms, we think that we have to like, do everything like so perfectly, right?
Yep.
You meet a boy, you date him, you fall in love, you get married, you have children, you live happily together forever. And so I meet so many women in our age range who've never had children, but they still have desire, right, for children. And they say, well, I'm not going to do it because I never got married. And I just so feel like you create what family looks like. Like we live in such a dynamic time and a dynamic, we have such a dynamic culture that you don't have to wait for a traditional, or they say like, well, God must not have wanted this. Well, no, all sorts of things happen that prevent women from having children. It doesn't mean that God didn't want you to be a mother or want family for you, right? And so
I agree.
You create your own limitations when you say that, And so, you and I both, we never had children. I know I still want to adopt. I still plan to adopt, but you and I have had this conversation so many times. And I think you have a healthy perspective of what you want and what's good for you. But I meet so many women who are like, oh, when I wanted kids, but I never got married. And I'm like, well, that's not a reason not to be a parent. There's foster parenting, there's surrogacy, there's, all sorts of ways that you can be a parent. A mom,
right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's another thing, Holmes. I think that
hold on. I gotta let them know. We have been calling each other by our last names for 18 years. Now, why we do that, we still have not figured it out. Have you figured out why we call each other? Why I call you Sneed and you call me Holmes?
I haven't figured it out. But I will tell you this. The only thing I will tell you is my mom has a best friend since second grade. And she calls my mom Sneed and she calls her friend Beasley. And they're by the last names.
You may have started it then. You may have called me Holmes.
I don't know. Maybe it's something in the universe that does it. And you just all of a sudden
think you may have called me Holmes one day and I was like, Sneed. This is what we call each other. So when she called me on the phone, she's like, hey, Holmes. I'm like, hey, Sneed.
Okay, so what was the question?
It was about being a parent, right?
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's another thing. I think that's another thing that's societal, because it's like, okay, you got to do things a certain way. And then, God forbid, if you, like you said, a lot of it is, religious, or norms or rules that we've put on each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And then you grow up with those norms or those rules. And if you don't fit in, you're judged.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is too, sometimes I just think that it's exposure. Like sometimes you just don't know.
You don't, because so speaking of exposure, so when I was at Northwestern getting my, certification, my teaching certification, there was a fellow teacher. There were 50 of us in this cohort at Northwestern, and only a few of us were African American. There were like, I think 5 of us out of 50. And one of my colleagues was white. And she was, at that time, Marianne was in her 50s, and she had a white son and a black son. The white son, she had him through in vitro. The black son, she adopted, of course. And so she said that when she was like in her 30s, she didn't have anybody. And she decided to go and freeze her eggs because she knew she wanted to have a child. Yeah. So she ended up having, her son, later in life because she froze her eggs. And that was the first time I had ever heard a woman say that to me, right? So when you talk about exposure, that exposed me to, now I didn't do it. I wish I had, but I didn't. But that was the exposure that I needed. And so when I talk to young women now, I tell them that, because women are getting married later in life.
Yep.
And I tell them, like, freeze your eggs,
Mm-hmm.
leave your options open. If you can afford to do so, it's so worth it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think, like you said, we have everything. Everything was given to us, right? We were
Yeah.
given free will. We're given choice. And you don't have to like settle or think just because this is the normal way of doing things that you have to conform to that.
Who says
So
it's normal? That's the whole
right.
point.
And right. Who says
Yeah.
it's normal? Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many, like you said, so many people who can't naturally have children.
Yep.
And like you said, it doesn't mean that God is like saying, oh, you can't have children and you can have children. I mean, it's part of just the human race, and that we have flaws. And
and the thing is that I dealt with fibroids for years, as you know that, right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
fibroids was a big issue for me,
Yeah.
not having children. And so just because I had fibroids doesn't mean God was punishing me.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
I still could have froze my eggs,
Yeah.
and I still could have had surrogate or did in vitro, right? So there could have been other options, and I just didn't exercise that choice, right? So that's why when I hear women saying that, I'm like, you weren't punished. God didn't leave you out, right?
Yes.
It was just something that happened, and you made choices.
Absolutely.
Right? You made
Absolutely.
choices to wait on that man, right?
Yeah.
And it happened, and then now you feel like I'm destined to be by myself and to never have a family, and I just don't buy that.
No. I mean, because like, think about it. Okay, I didn't have children while I was married. I was married for 10 years,
right?
Together for 12. Then after, I was one of those people that thought, oh, well, I have to be married. I have to be married. Oh no, I can't have children. I have to be married. I have to be married.
Yep.
And those years start going. I mean, at a certain age, and I was married, the doctor was like, don't you think you should start thinking about babies?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, what are you like, what do you mean? I gotta, is that major? But it is serious in terms of, what the body is capable of doing and how safe it is and all that. But like you said, there are so many people now who are giving these babies and young people homes that you don't have to limit yourself.
You don't.
So so absolutely. And you could be happy. I mean, think about it. I mean, there's so many, we have noticed that recently anyway. So many people who are adopting, and when you're taking care of someone, it's just like they're your own. It's not like you don't feel because showing love is extended, right? It's
Absolutely.
not just your immediate family, it's your circle, your tribe.
Yep. And if you feed anybody long enough, they'll even start to look like you.
Even your animals will look like you. So
is Bianca looking like you?
Is Bianca looking? Well, I looked at him and thought, oh, you're so cute.
So are you.
Oh, thank you. But anyway,
that hair is hot.
Oh, thank you.
Speaking of love,
it's all your fault because you made me go natural. No.
Hey,
okay, so anyway.
Okay, so
you're not looking too bad over there yourself.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I want to talk about something that I've been thinking a lot about, and I've been going to a therapist. I believe in therapy, right? And I believe that for me, I've gotten to the point of having so much love for Terré because of the work that I've done on Terré, right? And so anyway, one of the things that came up for me, it wasn't in therapy, it was just me thinking on this after the fact or before therapy or whatever, was that I dealt with a lot of childhood trauma. And actually it was after therapy that I thought about this. On my very first therapy session, she said, well, talk about your childhood, right? And that's what we spent 90 minutes talking about. And after I talked about that for 90 minutes, I realized, oh my God, you have never really, you've maybe said it like in pieces, right? Where you've talked about one episode or, one part of your childhood, but to go from the beginning to the end of your childhood and to talk about it and put the pieces together, that was one of the most painful exercises ever. But I had the most amazing epiphany. And that was, and you're not even going to be ready for this. Are you ready for this?
This is the norm.
So I had this epiphany that all these years, you know me, I have always dated big guys, right? Tall guys, big guys, right? Strong guys, on mine. And so anytime like a smaller guy would approach me, for me, I always had the thought, I don't care how nice he was. I don't care how successful he was. In the back of my mind, I always thought, can he protect me? And it wasn't until this last therapy session, that very first session with this therapist, that I realized that I grew up with so much trauma with people. There was violence. There were people arguing and physically fighting often, family members, friends, growing up in the inner city where, guys would get jumped. Like this was a real thing. So I grew up with the trauma, and I told myself that a smaller man could not protect me. And I chose my mates based on their physical stature for years, years and years and years. And as I began to process that and think about that trauma, I realized how many good men I let go because of my trauma.
Yeah, that's.
And so we don't even sometimes realize how our past trauma is affecting our present day and our future.
Oh yeah.
And so I have a good girlfriend. She's married to a very scrawny man. And
that's not funny.
I mean, and basically she just leaves him at home when she got to go to family functions.
Now I wasn't ready for that. I don't understand that. Why is he left at home?
I don't know. I have no idea. But my point is that no, truly, you have to get over and get past that trauma that you have been dealt in life. And I always say that if you don't deal with your trauma, or if you don't deal with your past, or if you don't deal with your pain, all of it will deal with you.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I'm so over that. After dating a big guy who was not it took me dating a big guy who did not take up for me anyway, who didn't protect me anyway, right? For me to realize
it was just worthless.
It was like, I just realized, like, you spend all this time choosing big men just to choose one who wasn't going to protect you anyway. You should have just been with that shorty.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
I'm serious. But I'm saying that because so many women are looking for love, and they don't realize that they're choosing men based on very superficial or very unrealistic or very very unreal reasons. Like you don't even realize why you're choosing your mate, right? Until you deal with some of the things that you've gone through and you start to really think about, why have I been making that choice? Otherwise, you're on autopilot and you're part of the matrix, right? And you're just doing things on autopilot and don't even realize it. And when I had that epiphany, it like opened up. It just opened my mind up. It opened my heart up. It made me stop being, and it wasn't superficial. It was a real experience that for me, I wanted to feel protected. And that's how I gauge protection.
That's some deep shiggity.
Shiggity, baby.
Yeah, it is.
I
Because
know.
sometimes we have to take a moment where we got to think about that. I'm taking it in right now,
Yeah,
and
it hit me. I literally, after I had that moment of telling her everything that happened in my childhood, and
yeah,
we had a lot of drug and alcohol abuse in our family,
right.
and so some of those individuals were in violent and volatile relationships,
Mm,
and as
mm,
children we witnessed it. So I grew up believing like I need to be protected. If I
mm.
bring my mate home, something might jump off. And am I going to be protected with that mate? If I take my
Wow,
mate to the
wow.
neighborhood where my cousin lives, where it's a little rough, am I going to be protected? And I just don't know if so many women are realizing how they've chosen their mates. Have you
Well,
chosen out of trauma?
yeah, what is interesting about that though is
What?
because I don't know, we kind of touched on it. You did, of course know your dad, and he loved you, dearly. We know that, but because he wasn't there because of certain things, um I don't know, you can tell me, but it seems like a lot of the women that I've met who did not have their father in the
Mm-hmm.
household,
Mm-hmm.
there were certain characteristics, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily bad, but it's like it's something, it's like a barrier with men,
Yeah.
what I notice, versus say, my dad has been, my mom and dad have been together for 60 something years or whatever. My dad has
Yeah.
always been there, and there is that barrier, and I would always think, well, why? Why is somebody, feeling like that? Um, and I do think that there are issues, like when they talk about when the father isn't in the household, or with women.
Yeah.
And all the women are very strong women,
Yeah.
so at the same time, sometimes I wonder, how do you find the fine balance of it all?
Right.
Because
So
mhm.
so it's
Wait, let me tell you this. The reason why I say that, how do you find the fine balance,
yeah.
is because sometimes I think for myself that I was a late bloomer on certain things. Like, I've always respected you, and I've always looked at, some other women that I've known, and how strong they've been, and how they were raised by single mothers. And they've been very strong in some areas, and I've admired. And then,
You,
so I
so
wonder what you think about that, Holmesy.
so the thing is that I have like mixed feelings about that. I have this conversation with both men and women often, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard men say like, oh, when a woman's not raised by her father, there's some problems that exist, right? And but what I also believe is that I know your dad. And your dad is one of the most gentle souls, loving, nurturing, caring. He protected you and loved
Yeah.
on you, right? And so what is equally worse, not worse, but what also can be very detrimental to girls is growing up with a father who is not that. So many girls, so we have this misconception that having the father in the home means that girls turn out great, right? And sometimes having the father in the home, depending upon who that father is, that woman doesn't turn out so well. She may see that father abusing her mother and may think that that is how men are supposed to treat women. She may see that mother abusing her father and think that women are supposed to treat men that way.
Yeah.
She may see a dad who is on drugs or alcohol or any of those, things, and think
Mm-hmm.
that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So while I do agree that a lot of us turn out really strong, it's because we got to, right? But that strength also, I didn't start learning how to be gentle until in my 40s. I didn't start learning how to really not stroke a man's ego, but
Mhm.
really just be uh, allow the best parts of me as a woman, that
Mhm.
nurturing part of me, that gentle part of me, right? That's when they talk about what are girls made of, sugar and spice and everything nice, right? You know, whatever. But seriously, that sugar and that spice and that niceness and that gentleness and that what makes us us, that warmness, all of that, I had to learn that because
Yeah.
there's nature and there's nurture.
Yeah.
My nature was that gentle, sweet kid. I mean, I'm an Aquarius as well, so we're not always
Mhm.
so gentle. But I was
Mhm.
also nurtured by a mother who was super strong. So I was
Yeah.
nurtured to be
Yeah.
super strong and nurtured to not cry and not, you
Yeah.
know, and to be and to let myself in the house by myself, right? In fourth grade and fifth grade and take responsibility. And I started cooking when I was in the fourth or fifth grade.
Yeah.
So those are things we learn, but those are also the things that don't allow us to be able to be gentle and be at least I think, and to allow other people to love on us and protect us and take care of us. It becomes very challenging to do that. So I am learning to do that. And so that's what I
That's
think.
what it is. I think you hit
Yeah.
it on the nose. I think you hit it on the nose because that's exactly what it is. When I'm thinking about certain and very beautiful women,
Mhm.
beautiful women, but that is exactly what it is. It's that it is, but you're right. It depends on different environments, and you're right.
Yeah.
In my particular environment, yes, my
You
dad
you had
was,
an amazing dad.
yeah, he was a very calm spirit. I mean, when he had
Yes.
to put the foot down, he did, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Um, but I think that's what it is. It's that little. It's just a little bit of roughness around the edges that needed to be, like needed to be a little polished. Like a little diamond in the rough. You know, and but that just tells me, and we talk about it all the time. Transformation.
Yeah.
How and there are some people if they don't want to grow and they don't think that they can, or they don't think that an old dog can learn new tricks. There are some people that truly believe that, and
Yeah.
that's not us. That's not what we believe. So we know that even though there could be those little things or that we need to just polish up, that is possible.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
possible to do.
I had to learn that, but I also had to learn another hard lesson. And that lesson came in marriage. Um, I married a man who was very strong. He was very strong, right? Strong will, strong nature. And when two strong people come together, you can butt heads. So
Mhm.
I learned to temper myself and to be, to basically allow him to lead, right? And allow him to be that. But what's very important and what I encourage younger women and women in general to do is that you have to know who you're allowing to lead,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You have to know that this person is leading with love. So
Hmm.
going back to our theme for this conversation, leading from love and not leading from fear or leading from
Yeah.
intimidation or leading from control or leading from with power struggles, but leading with love. And strong women will not put their guards down if they're not being led gently, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you have to also know that I'm allowing you to lead me. I'm allowing you to be the leader. And that is no diss to you.
Yeah.
That means that I am an independent thinker, an independent woman, an independent human being who is allowing you to take leadership role in our home. But
Hmm.
that does not mean that I also cannot be a co-leader, right? A co-conspirator with you in our home. But only a
Speak,
humble,
Holmesy, speak.
hey, only a humble man who is
Yeah.
well developed in his character, well
Yeah.
developed in his who is mature, who does not feel like if I allow her to lead, it takes something from me.
Yeah.
And the saying can never be truer. A happy wife is a happy life.
Yes.
For men who don't get that, shame on them, right? Too bad for you. So that's what I learned. But okay, so I want to move on. So I got a bone to pick with you.
Okay, well, I'm used to it. What?
Like
What?
like it's a big bone. Like it's so big I can't even. It's one of them big old bones. Okay, how is it that you of all people, you are supposed to be my gal? You are supposed to be my segue into the
You're
into the world.
well, no, that's man and woman. Okay, never mind.
Okay, so how is it that you did not tell me that Tiffany Haddish was dating Common?
Oh,
Like, how
oh,
you not going
right. I was trying not to think about it.
Now, here's the issue with that. You used to love Common. So you of all people should have come to me and told me when Tiffany got with Common.
But everybody loves Common. That's what I figured out now. Everybody loves him. You know, like I read his book and everything. You know, I mean, well, okay, so this is no. By this time, no offense, Common, if you ever happen to see a video or something. By this time, because he's dated, you know, which I have to say, he's dated some very, I would say, amazing women.
Yes, he has.
I would say that. And, you know, I keep you up to date, but I do have moments where, like, I'm in love and then I fall out of love. You know, I have these fantasy
I know
loves.
you fell out of love.
Speaking of love, it's okay to have fantasy loves, but yeah, so I really I actually forgot, believe it or not, because I was gonna say something, but then at the same time I had doubts. I'm like, wait a minute, is this a publicity stunt? I really thought it could have been a publicity stunt because you know how Tiffany is, but she could be partially a freak too. You know, I'm like, maybe kind of like a little freakish, you know, freakishness, whatever. You know, he was with Erykah Badu. You know, I know Erykah put some voodoo on him. No, that's not nice. Okay, but anyway,
she put the Badu on him.
That's a Badu. Yeah, not voodoo, Badu. But yeah, no. So seriously, Holmesy, I guess it's not much to talk about with that, except, you know, I really wasn't sure if it was a publicity stunt or not. However, if it is so, then hail to Tiffany, because Common is fine. My 80-year-old mother said Common is fine, so he must be fine.
My mama said Common was fine.
Did grandmother say he was fine? Grandmother was 96.
Grandmother, rest in heaven, grandmother. If grandmother had seen Common, grandmother would have said Common was fine too. Fine.
And the other thing about him, since we're talking about him, I mean, Tiffany, we love Tiffany. I love Tiffany. I saw her on Comedy Jam before she was Tiffany. And I was like, that's Tiffany Haddish. That's Tiffany Haddish. I figured it out. But she was actually pretty funny on there. So, you know, she seemed like she has a really good spirit. But the thing about Common, though, I mean, the guy is deep. Like intellectually, I feel like he can get in the mind. So I'm like, I don't know. Like he's dated, if we go through, who is he dated? He's dated Erykah.
Yep. Angela Rye.
Yes. Serena Williams. Taraji.
Which Taraji doesn't seem so deep. Huh?
You say what?
She doesn't seem so deep, but the rest of them are they seem to match his intellectual level.
Yeah, but I don't even know. I'm gonna say Taraji, she probably is too, because for her roles that she does.
That's true.
You gotta, you know, so all of those women are very intelligent.
Yeah, and so it's not that Tiffany doesn't come off as intelligent. Tiffany doesn't come off as a person who would engage you on that level of conversation.
Well, I thought so until I figured out, like when she was talking about how she grew up, her dad was Jewish. That she's Jewish. Did you know that?
Yeah, she talks about that. I don't, is that a joke or that's for real?
No, I think that's for real. So
Okay.
I'm saying this. I'm it's not that the religion or the faith or anything, but what I'm saying is that sometimes your
Your
exposure or
exposure.
what you're
Yeah.
around, could take you or cause you to have a different thought process. And so that's the only thing. Maybe she has real interesting conversation, maybe that is what draws common to these women. It's just their interesting conversations. I don't know.
So I do feel like opposites do attract, right? And I think sometimes for me personally, one of the other things I've learned quite recently and being back on the dating scene is that I was always dating a type. You know me, you know my type, right? So I was always dating this type. And the type that I was dating was a type that was very much so like me. And it never worked out because the person was just like me. We didn't necessarily, while that brought us together, that didn't keep us together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think sometimes we look for people who are like us.
Yeah.
And that brings us together, but it doesn't always keep us together.
Yeah.
Because, the beauty resides in the nuances and the gray areas, right?
Yeah.
Like love is not black or white. Love resides in the gray areas, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I say, oh, this person's just like me, then I put them on this side. Or I say this person's so different from me, then I put them on this side. But if I say we share some things in common, but we have some differences, now we're in that gray area. And I think that that's where the best things happen when we're not exactly alike. And that there are some differences that between us that we can sort of appreciate in each other. So I assume that that's maybe what Common and Tiffany have if this is not a publicity stunt.
You know what it is though? You know what it is too? It's like Tiffany is a comedian. Okay, mm-hmm. That's who she is. So there are some comedians who I just don't know who they are.
Exactly. But see, so like for me, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, why didn't Sneed tell me about this? Right? Because someone told me, a guy friend told me that he told me about the whole, he's the one who told me they were together. And so when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, I could see like if Tiffany was the female version, if Chris Rock was the female version of Tiffany, am I saying that right? Maybe I've had too much wine. If Chris Rock was the female version of Tiffany.
Did you say Brock?
Yeah, Chris Rock. Follow me here.
I thought you were saying Brock.
No, Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle. If they were the female versions of Tiffany, I would be like, okay, because their comedy is so intellectual, right? So I was like, okay, then I can see the Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle version of Tiffany getting with Common. But I'm like, Tiffany.
Oh gosh. I don't know. Like, are we giving them? I think we're women and we're giving the man too much credit.
Oh, tell me more.
That's what we do. As women, we tend to give the men more credit.
We do. So we're saying, because here's my thing really though about Common. What I really believe is that Common's the kind of guy, I believe this, that cannot handle the likes of some of those women. Very successful, strong, outspoken women. That's just what he comes across to me. to me as. I remember reading an article where he said that Erykah Badu was bossier than Serena Williams. And anytime you put that out there about a woman, because I'm sure he was probably raised by and I won't call her a bossy woman, a bossy mother, but perhaps a mother
Yeah, I
who was
think his
strong.
mother was very strong. She's an
Exactly.
educator. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And so I think that
I know him personally or
yeah,
something.
I'm just saying, but I think that sometimes strong women get a bad rep, and it's like, why can't you take all of the parts of her, the pieces and parts of her, right? The nurturing part of her, the dominant part of her, the gentle part of her, the outspoken part of her. And I think that, like, so for instance, when Common got with Erykah Badu, he was just coming out. Her career was established, right? And so I think that, and I don't like to talk about people in the industry. I never want to feel like I'm talking about them, but this is just sort of an assessment of what can happen when men and women of similar types get together. And it's because I think that for the most part, those women were sort of on Common's level. Tiffany's new to the game. Tiffany's new in the industry. So Tiffany probably is she's learning things from Common, right? And perhaps there was just a situation wherein, sometimes men need to also feel like the woman needs something from him or is learning something from him. And that might be the dynamic. I ain't trying to be in their business because it ain't my business, right? It's not your cheese, Terré. It's not your cheese. However, it's not your cheese.
You're gonna break it down to determine like what really is the issue and how.
Right, but it's not your cheese, Terré. So, but yeah, so I mean, I wish them well, though. I really do wish them well.
No, I do too.
Yeah, and so, Steve, this has been an amazing conversation.
It is. It always is. It always is. And then we start off, we like laugh, and then we get super serious.
Did you see that? You saw that laughing?
That's typical. That's typical for us.
Oh, and that was so good. That was a good laugh, girl. Oh, that was a good laugh. I needed that laugh. In the middle of a global pandemic and I can't see my friends, I needed that laugh. Okay.
Oh, man.
So we have to do this again. You got to come back on the Terré Holmes Show. You're going to be my honorary friend guest.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, because
I love that.
So
I love that.
Yes, we're going to have more conversations.
It'll be totally marvelous, darling.
Yes.
Coming from,
that's okay. This is the kind of things that happen. You important.
What?
You important. People call you at such and such time of night.
Well, I told y'all I didn't have a man, but I'm,
Oh,
no.
Get on
I'm joking. Just joking.
No.
Okay, so no. I love that. I love our conversations.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yes.
I mean, we have some really good conversations, and then at the end, like the icing on the cake, you had to ask me about Common, and I at one point, I did, really love him, but as I must understand that it's time for me to move on.
Always.
Go to Tiffany's.
Yes.
Way to go. Way to go, girlfriend.
So go do your thing. Okay. Go do your thing, Tiffany. But Kel, I will have you back on the Terré Holmes Show. You are always welcome. Thank you for joining me for this episode, I should say. And I cannot wait to have you back on. We're going to have more juicy conversation. I loved talking to you about love tonight.
I love talking to you. Thank you. And I want to come back.
You're
I do. Because you have some good, not only do you have some good conversations, you have some good advice, some good stuff. Well, you did the work like a young one.
It takes work. It takes work. And I am very grateful at this stage of my life for every dollar I paid, for every for every book I read, for every ticket I bought to every conference for wellness and well-being, for every couch I sat on and poured my heart and soul and tears out Okay. For every girlfriend who picked up the telephone and listened to me talk about whatever I was going through and talk to me through it. Like, it takes a village, but it also takes work. And you have to be willing to do the work on yourself in order to have the type of happiness and fulfillment, because life is filled with all types of challenges.
Yes.
And if we don't do the work on ourselves, the work will do a work on us. Life will do work on us. So,
amen.
So I really believe that. So thank you, sister.
You're welcome.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. Love you.